Well, I saw Echo, and guess what? It was no good. It's no real surprise there. Um, with the way the MCU has been performing, you expect it. Some aspects of it, I see. Well, you might have had something here and there, and that sort of thing. But ultimately, I've seen worse in a lot of different avenues. Even here, She-Hulk's way worse than this. But for the most part, it's just a lot of stupid. Of course, they showcase the Choctaw tribe, and I guess, I'm unfamiliar with the lore, but I assume they say they went and talked to the tribe itself, and they weaved this in there, and all of that. But as far as just a hard-boiled crime narrative and whatnot, not really. This plays out to give some insinuation of her magical superpowers, which she knows nothing about, and then her grandma has to explain it to her, and that's the whole thing. It's also supposed to be like a feminist message. It ends up being mostly misandrist, but that's nothing new either. Men are stupid and cause trouble. White men more so, who are just absolutely evil. And there's the values of the MCU, But anyway, the Kingpin, surprise, at times is the most interesting character. But it's setting up this sort of father-daughter thing where the father, of course, is really bad. It's Kingpin, after all, becomes her father after he kills her real father. But the problem here, if they're presenting Echo as a hero, they did it terribly wrong. Because even at the end, she seems to still be involved in the criminal underworld. And her whole deal was to become Queen Pin, and that doesn't solve anything. She murders a whole bunch of people pretty early on by setting up she goes through this long thing of jumping on a train and stuff. And some of that was badly shot. I mean, there's cuts between 1 minute she lands on a train car, and she shows it. I mean, this is the first, well, not the first. Hawkeye was her first acting gig, but the actress, for that limited background, she does all right in a lot of this. But she jumps onto this car, and you can see, whoa, man, that was tough. Almost didn't make it. And that's all on her face. The immediate scene after that, she's got this smirk and, look, and it's like that's not consistent. It's just things like that. That's not a matter of not having a budget for special effects or whatnot. That's just bad editing. But then there's plenty of that in there. On top of being deaf, she, of course, has lost a leg. So they write that into the story as well. They don't take full advantage of that at all. Now, they show the scene when she was a child, the accident that ended her mother's life and took her leg, but the injury they depict, I don't think you needed to amputate her leg out of that. So you could have done it to where the leg was badly crushed under something or something like that, or and that sort of thing. But they didn't do it that way. Anyway, they go into the Choctaw lore. Apparently they did it accurately. They say they did this research with the tribe and everything. I have to take their word for it. And this is the explanation of her magic powers that manifest itself. And her estranged grandmother has to tell her, because all the women know this stuff and everything like that. But ultimately, the Choctaw narrative, along with women and disability, is tossed in there as the shield for any criticism that might come, which is standard operating procedure as of late. But anyway, the prosthetic leg could have been something, especially after she's supposed to be this super duper pooper scooper crack assassin for Kingpin. And yes, she's been his assassin. So she's killed an awful lot of people. Anti-hero. But the leg could have had all these weapons and stuff like that. Could have gone a long way of explaining it. The fight scenes in some scenes, they're not that great. And some are just really bad and not very believable. When they finally get to, oh, she's got some kind of powers, well, then I guess that explains some of it. But not really, not a whole lot. And then finally it just goes full on mystical, where she reads the Kingpin's mind and goes in and, I don't know. He at his core is his hatred for his father, whom he killed because he was a violent man who beat his mother and this sort of thing. And then she goes in there to reveal that deep down the Kingpin is just a frightened, crying little boy, And supposedly this did something to him to where the Kingpin no longer has his balls or whatever. At the end, even though there's a setup for the Daredevil show where Kingpin will be running for mayor, or maybe already be mayor of New York City by the time the show comes. I don't know. But anyway, that's about that. It's another thing about a show that insists and demands respect without respecting itself, to give it its due diligence. Some parts of it, as I said, they did fairly decent work on, but it's just wasted from all the other. And really just not really a character to bank on, especially when you only use drips and drabs of the character's backstory. Now, I wasn't completely familiar with Echo. I knew the character from the Avengers when she was going in the Ronin guys. Now, of course, you saw Hawkeye as Ronin, which would have made a cool series, too, if they'd have done the years in between Infinity War and Endgame of Hawkeye and all that, when he was the nasty guy, violent vigilante, and, ultimately, ran afoul of Echo, and she thought he had killed her father and all that. But anyway, but it was her in the suit in the Avengers, and didn't quite know her full backstory, and had kind of forgotten about it. I convinced myself she had actually been an Asian character, but I was wrong. But of course, with the Ronin guys, I think I assumed that. But no, she was Native American, but she was not a member of the Choctaw tribe. She was a part of the Cheyenne tribe. I don't know why they changed it, but well, they changed it. So I'll just go through, it's the Wikipedia page for her basic biography. So Maya Lopez was still a young girl when her father, Willie Crazy Horse Lincoln, was killed by the Kingpin, which, there you go, that's staying with the narrative of Kingpin is ultimately responsible for her father's death. Crazy Horse dies, leaving a bloody handprint on Maya's face and a last dying wish. He did touch her face in the Hawkeye series as he died, but they never made use of her look. They used the little weird circle symbol that she has on her jacket, or where they give her a suit at the end, and they probably should have just stayed with the jacket. But anyway, that's mostly the iconography of her. Of her look is that painted handprint on her face. So she goes by that to remember her father and all that. They didn't use it. I don't know why, but they didn't. So Kingpin, so Crazy Horse dies begging Kingpin to take care of his daughter, and he honors the wish, which eventually in this story he becomes a father figure to her. And he does care about her as his daughter. So, believed to be mentally disabled, Maya is sent to an expensive school for people with learning disabilities. There, she manages to completely replicate a song on the piano. She is subsequently sent to another expensive school for prodigies. So, here, they basically take top to bottom the Taskmaster's ability of copying fighting abilities. All he has to do is watch you fight, and now he knows how to fight just like you. And it comes across quite as superhuman, but nevertheless, that's the deal. Well, she can do it too, hence the name Echo. So she grows up in the employ of Kingpin, and so Kingpin sends her to prove Matt Murdock's weakness, telling her that Matt believes Fisk is a bad person, and that she is the only way to prove him wrong. As Maya believes Fisk, it would not appear to be a lie when she tells Matt. So that's the thing, Matt is basically a human lie detector because he can hear your heart rate and all that stuff. So anyway, Murdock and Maya fall in love. So there you go. You've got this manipulated romance here going on, which is a far more engaging narrative and storyline. Couldn't have that in the show. No. So she later takes on the Echo guys to hunt down Daredevil. So she doesn't know that Matt Murdock is Daredevil. Kingpin knows it at the time. So there again, he's manipulating this. Even though he does care for her and sees her as his daughter, he still just uses her to destroy his enemy. So anyway, on her face, she paints the white handprint, similar to the bloody handprint of her father. Maya proves more than a match for Daredevil. Well, why? Come on. How is this girl going to beat Daredevil? Well, she's watched videos of Daredevil and Bullseye fighting. After several failed attempts, noticing that Daredevil can easily move through the dark, Maya easily figures out Daredevil's weakness and exploits this by having a fight in a place where Daredevil's heightened senses are useless. So a lot of loud noises and whatnot. And of course, she's deaf, so it's not going to affect her. So Maya easily takes down Daredevil and nearly kills the little vigilante, refusing only when she finds out Matt and Daredevil are one and the same. So I guess she ripped off the mask and like, holy crap, it's my boyfriend. So Matt manages to expose the Kingpin's lies. In revenge, Maya confronts and shoots Fisk in the face, blinding Fisk and starting the chain of events that led to the man's eventual downfall. Kingpin later partially recovered eyesight through reconstructive eye surgery. But there again, see, they did use these plot points. They just didn't use the overall better story. Most notably, the romance between the two, which, you could have weaved that into an actual Daredevil show rather than, no, it's got to be all Echo and stuff. And they just couldn't cobble together their own. After realizing the horror of her actions and the lies with which she has grown up, Maya flees the United States to do some soul searching. When she comes back, she tries reuniting with Murdock, only to find out he's now with a blind woman and that Kingpin is still alive. Oh, boy, poor Maya. She leaves Matt and visits the Kingpin in prison, who tells her that he doesn't blame her for what she did, and that despite all that had happened, the Kingpin still loves her like a daughter. Well, unsatisfied and still needing peace, Maya turns to the Chief, her father's old friend, noted for wisdom. The Chief, well, you turn to a man for advice. They can't have that in the show. I mean, there is her kindly grandfatherly figure who gives her a new, actually an element part of her prosthetic leg, but it really doesn't come into play all that much, so I don't know. But Grandma had to teach her about her superpowers. Anyway, the Chief sends Maya on a vision quest to claim her soul. On her quest, she meets and befriends Wolverine, who helps her recover and passes on knowledge of Japanese culture and Japanese organized crime. Soon enough, Maya makes peace with her past and is back doing performance art. And then eventually puts on the Ronin suit and meets up with the Avengers. And that's where I caught up with her. So just in that, you have a much better a layout here. I don't know that they had enough time to introduce Wolverine ultimately to her, but for a basic Daredevil season, that would have worked out much better. I guess you would have needed to reestablish Daredevil for the MCU, or if they would be smart and just say, yeah, the Netflix stuff, as far as Daredevil is concerned, happened. But I doubt that they'll do that. They'll probably mess with it in some form or fashion. But nevertheless, but that, with the eggshells you have to tiptoe through, there's too many men having an influence on her. Not enough opportunity for her to cut them down and belittle them instead of them just being human beings in relationships with one another and all of that, and the complexity of it. All of that was actually in a comic book narrative that I'm not saying is all that great, or this, wow, this is one of the best runs. You need to check it out. But much better approach to character development and story there, and an explanation for it. All that business of how does she take down Daredevil? Well, they explain it, whereas here, well, the spirits that apparently she didn't know anything about did it. It's a certain laziness to this to this character that you claimed that you demand respect for, while at the same time you never did. At least from how I see it, I don't think you did. So anyway, there you go. Can't recommend it. There's worse things than Echo, that's true, but again, that's not saying a whole lot. So it doesn't look good for the Daredevil show, and that's a damn shame. But well, we'll have to wait and see, I guess.